Welcome back to Coding Drift. In the previous video, we have created async action creators as well as the reducer. In this video, we will create the async action and dispatch it from the store. Before creating the async action, we need to install a couple of libraries. First is Axios, that is for making API calls. So I'll install Axios. The thing with Redux is it cannot handle asynchronous dispatch. So we need to have middleware in between to handle that. So I'll install Redux Thunk for that. So what I'll do is I'll import Thunk from Redux Thunk. So this Thunk is a middleware. So whenever we have asynchronous actions, right, we need to pass this. So I'll create a store here. Const store is equal to create store of the user reducer, and I'll pass Thunk here. I'll also include the Redux logger middleware so that we can see the flow of data. So I'll pass this logger here. I need to create the middlewares. Middleware is equal to apply middleware of Thunk and logger. This middleware I'll pass it here. Now let us write our asynchronous dispatch. I'll call it as fetch users. Here instead of directly calling the dispatch, right, what I'll do is I'll return a function. So whenever you return a function, right, this will be passed to the thunk, and this thunk will call a callback function. So dispatch will be passed from thunk to this function as the first parameter. Now we can perform all the asynchronous operations here. After asynchronous operations are done, we can call the dispatch. So to fetch the users, right, what I'll do is I'll use this JSON placeholder API. It has an API that can be used for demonstration purposes. So let us go ahead and call it. I need to import Axios. So axios.get of this particular API endpoint. So when that resolves, I'll get a response, and data will be response.data. This response.data will be this list of users. So what I can do is I can dispatch the action. The action is fetch user succeeded, and we will pass data as users. Before making this API call, we need to dispatch another action, that is fetch user initialized. That is for setting the loading as true. Here, when fetch users initialized is called, the loading will be set to true, and then the API call will happen. Once the API call is succeeded, we will dispatch fetch user succeeded with the response data. And whenever this fails, right, we will get an error. So this error will dispatch fetch user failed, and we will pass error.message. So that's how we can create asynchronous actions. To recap, right, we will be returning this function to the thunk, and thunk will call this function with the dispatch function. Whenever a asynchronous function is finished, we can dispatch our actions. It is not necessary that you have to have asynchronous dispatches only. We can have synchronous dispatches like this one. So finally, I'll dispatch this action from the store, that is store.dispatch of fetch users. So let us go ahead and test this. I will call node async actions. So as you can see, we got into an error. We did a syntax error here. We need to check for action.type here. Hope you have catched this. Let us run it again. As you can see, right, it is running fine. So let us first go. Initial state will be loading as false. Users will be empty. There will not be any error. Next state, when the fetch users initialized, loading will be set to true. We'll not have any users yet. And when fetch user succeeded, that is API call is done, you can see the difference here. It has run at 060 millisecond, and this one run at 438. That is a gap of almost 350 milliseconds there. After 350 milliseconds, the API call is succeeded, and we said we still have loading as true and there are no users. So we got the list of users. We have around 10 users here. Once we get the user, our loading is set to false, and users array will have all the users. We will not have any error, so error is set to empty. Now let us say there is some error in the API. I do some typo here. If I run it again, as you can see, right, the API call has failed and the fetch users failed is dispatched. We have the payload as a request failed with 404, and our state is updated with the same error message. So that is how we can have asynchronous actions using Redux Thunk as middleware. We have finally come to the end of Redux part. In the next video, we will be starting with Redux Toolkit. Thank you for watching. If you are liking this series, please consider subscribing to the channel. See you in the next one.